Say yes every day to the world and to your heart. Open up your eyes and let your spirit start. Say yes to the dreams you hold inside. Let your soul be your guide.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Wednesday Wisdom. Today, we are joined by the fabulous Samantha Shelton. She is the broker owner of Align Lending. First off, thank you so much, Samantha, for joining us today. And on Wednesday Wisdom, we do this in 3 sections: the past, the present, and the future. So first up, we would love to hear from you. What was a piece of advice that you received that to this day you are still applying? And if you would like to, please give a shout out to the person that gave you the advice.
So I actually thought about this for a long time. I think when you're asked a question like that, you look for an aha moment, right? Like something that just like hits you. And I kept coming back to the same occurrence. I was really struggling. I was new in my career. And my good friend Tom Ahles pulled me aside and he said, you can only control what you can control. And at the time, it seems very minor, and I probably did not give it the weight that it deserved at that moment of where I was at. But it's true. You can only control what you can control. I can't control the market. I can't control mortgage noise. So I really have dived in since then. I really walked away like, you hear it a lot, but it really took me being in that point in my life and in my career to understand that that is very much true. You can only control what you control.
So a couple of things there. And Tom is fabulous. So I'm so happy that you put his name out there. That's wonderful. I think a couple of things. Number one, yes, we can only control the controllables, right? Things outside of our control, we cannot, right? But I think the most important thing of kind of what I heard there is 2 things. One, I think it was whatever the timing was that he said it to you, whatever that moment was, right? And who knows what was happening at that particular moment. So I think 1 was the timing of it. And I think 2 may have been by where it came. Meaning, I think you have the respect for him to where it was a situation where maybe if someone else had said it, you would be like, oh, yeah, I know about that. I've heard that before. It's kind of like when we're kids and our parents say something and we're like, yeah. And then years later, you're like, man, that was so accurate. So what I'd love to know coming into the present is, so how have you taken that advice and applied it to your business? What did you do once you were like, that makes sense? How have you applied it?
So when I got back, I really dug deep into that, right? I needed that piece at that point in my life, and I really dug deep into my business. Nobody controls my work ethic. Nobody controls how hard I work except for me. Nobody controls the experience that my clients have but me. So at the end of the day, regardless of everything that was going on around me, I could control the success that I had. And I needed Tom to say it at that moment for me to truly believe that I did control that piece. And since that day, I do. I try to just, everything that I can control, I give it 100%.
Wow. I mean, literally, as you were saying it, I could kind of feel it, because how many people out there right now need to hear that? How many people are hitting roadblock after roadblock of whatever is going on, right? Whether it's professional or personal. But yet we can control what time we get up, right? Meaning if we want to do that little extra, right? If we want to do that little extra marketing, if we want to do that little extra sale, if we want to spend that little extra time on that closing gift, whatever, right? We can control how much time we're putting on that effort, right? And to your point, you control the experience, the relationship with that family. You control the follow-up. You control that communication. You control that lasting feeling that they get. And all those other things, you said it's noise. That's noise. That's just happening. But we have a choice, right, Samantha? We have a choice of where do we put our focus? Do we put our focus on the obstacles, or do we put our focus on the things we can control? And I'm going to ask you this because, listen, we're all human and we all run into this, no matter how great we want to be. What happens when you kind of feel, I'm kind of reverting back to, oh, this is controlling me now because it's kind of bleeding over into the other section. How do you like wrap yourself back when you see that going on that road?
So like you said, we're human, and I find myself constantly revisiting the like, okay, pull yourself back here. But I really think that it goes down to, I think I look through a different lens sometimes. I think that a lot of times, I should start out. When you start anything, whether it's a career or a hobby, it's important to find your mentors, your Lauras, your Toms, your Jamie Kavanaughs, the people that I look to. How do I mimic what they're doing? That's important. But I think that the real success that I have of keeping my mindset positive and keeping myself in the right headspace is that you can find mentorship with your peers. Like, I have never been part of a community like this where, for instance, I'm hosting a VA class and I reached out to Elizabeth Cassidy, who is just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to veterans. And that is success to me. That is me keeping myself in a positive mindset instead of me being like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get all the information? Am I going to say the right things? And I don't want to mess up. And then it starts to consume you, right? I start reverting back the other way. I use my resources and I use my peers and I ask questions and I'm curious and I want to be a student and I want to learn. And I think that that's a very important piece to having a positive mindset.
100%, 100%. And you are correct. We are very, very blessed that we are in an industry of so many people that do want to help and do want to reach out a hand and say, what can I do to support you? And it wasn't always that way. I mean, man, when the mortgage industry went through the meltdown, it was like every man and woman for themselves and nobody was helping anyone, right? Because it was survival. But we all know we all do better when we work together because we all lift each other up. And I agree with you that in times of when you're starting to spiral a little bit of whatever, and it happens like that, right? That loan goes bad, that something doesn't go exactly the way you want it to, and it's easy to get caught up in that. But you're right, by even reaching out even if it's just a how's your day type of thing, and you kind of snap yourself out of it, it makes a big difference. So that's great. And this leads me to the part of the show where we want to hear your piece of advice. What would you say to everyone out there listening of your piece of advice that you would like to share?
I would say that success is not just closing deals. I look at success about being positive and looking at the doors that you can open for opportunity, the people that you get to meet, the families that you get to help. It's not always just closing that deal, right? There's other avenues that make you successful. So just really keeping an open mindset that the way I do business and my volume is not going to be the same as somebody else's. And while it's great to look and mimic what they do, it's not always realistic for me to compare myself to someone else, right? We aren't competitors. We are friends. We are on the same team, right? We root for each other. So just remembering that success is not always measured by your volume or how many deals you close. That sometimes it's just the doors that you open for opportunity.
You are so correct. And I was just saying this, that everyone's definition of success is different. And depending on where you are in your life, it changes. Mm-hmm. At one season of your life, success may be, getting the kids fed and to bed without, anyone having a meltdown, like that could be success, right? And then later the success could be a dollar number. It could be being able to have, funds to send your kids to college, right? That might be success, right? And then maybe it's building a company, to a certain size. But all of those things, may not be success for someone else. It
Right.
could be completely different. And all of that is the beauty of what makes up the world, is that we are all different. And by celebrating and supporting and everyone's success, whatever that success looks like, because it's all different, we all are winners and successful. And Samantha, I know you have a huge heart on top of being an amazing businesswoman and everything else. And you work so hard and shine so brightly. And we thank you so much today for sharing your wisdom with all of us. And we look forward to continuing to support and celebrating you.
Thank you so much for having me.